In 2022, I hatched a plan to go from no status with BA to the lofty heights of their top tier status of BA Gold. And I plan to do this in only 3 European trips. Hi, I'm Phil, and I'm on a grey gap year. Round trip 1, London Gatwick to Catania in Sicily. If, like I did, you think that only the most frequent of frequent flyers or those that spend loads of cash on business class seats can get BA Gold status, then, like me, you'd be wrong. It doesn't seem possible to become top tier in a frequent flyer scheme after only 3 European trips. But you can do it. Well, I was taking advantage of BA's double tier point offer to speed up my status. In this offer, you get double the BA status points, and they're called tier points, if you book a hotel or a car hire for at least 5 nights of your trip. Combine that with BA reducing the number of tier points required for BA Gold in 2022. They reduced it from 1,500 to 1,025, and suddenly this becomes entirely feasible. So I'm at Gatwick South Terminal, and this is flight 1 of 10 flights, which is going to form just 3 trips for Gold status with British Airways. So let's get checked in. Breakfast was served on the way to Catania, and I had one of my favourites, eggs Florentine, and you know, it wasn't all that bad. There was champagne for those that wanted it, but I was driving a car hire at the other end, so I stuck with juice. I was on the front row with excellent leg room, even though I'm very small at 5'4", and I couldn't even really reach the bulkhead in front of my seat. This was my first ever business class flight, and if you'd like to see more about this, then I've talked about it in a previous video, and I'll link to that video in the comments. Incidentally, I was going to talk about how the BA scheme works and how I plan these trips, but it was actually quite long-winded, so I've cut it out of this video. And I'm going to do a separate video that'll talk about BA status, how I planned and booked these trips, and how you could do exactly the same. If you'd like to learn more about the BA scheme and the tricks that I use to get BA Gold in 3 trips, then just subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and you'll get a notification when my new videos are released. Before I knew it, we're getting ready to come into land at Catania Airport in Sicily, but although this was the end of my first ever business class flight, it was only the start of my adventure in Sicily, and what an adventure it was. 5 nights of history, great food, and fantastic wine. On the return trip, I was sat on the back row of the business class cabin. And I'm using the word cabin quite loosely here, because as you can see, the only difference between the business class cabin and the economy cabin was 1 row and a curtain between the seats. So the seats are either identical or just a couple of inches extra in pitch, and that would just depend on the row you sat on in the aircraft and the type of aircraft you're on. But I was here for tier points, and although the seat leaves a bit to be desired in business, I have felt spoiled on all the BA business flights that I've been on, and this flight was no exception. I enjoyed an excellent cup of BA tea, something that has been consistently good on all my flights with them, and this was served with a couple of bags of posh nuts. And then came the evening meal, which was a tasty tikka masala, and I paired this with the only beverage that can be drunk with a curry, a can of beer. Although the flight to Sicily is over 3 hours long, it didn't feel that way, and I can only put this down to the great service from the BA staff, so shortly after dinner we were preparing for landing. This trip earned me 80 tier points per flight, which then doubled in the offer gave me 320 tier points for the trip, and this was enough for me to reach the first level of BA status called Bronze Level. Flight 2, Edinburgh to Bucharest. You may have a couple of questions here, namely, why am I talking about 10 flights if it's supposed to be 3 trips? Why am I flying from Edinburgh when I live in the Midlands? Well, one of the little hacks you can do to boost your tier points is fly out of a regional airport rather than the hub in London. So if I'm flying from London to Bucharest, I'll earn 80 tier points each way in business. If I fly to Bucharest from Edinburgh on a direct flight, I'll also earn 80 tier points in business, but there isn't a direct flight to Bucharest from Edinburgh, so I'll have to change planes in London, and this means I get 40 tier points for the Edinburgh to London flight, and then 80 tier points for the London to Bucharest flight, so that's 120 tier points each way, which then once you double it in the offer gives me a nice fat 480 tier points just for one trip. And the BA double tier points offer is still valid and will be there until the end of 2024. So you can use this hack to get BA Gold too, but I'll get into all the details of BA status, tier points and how to use this offer in that upcoming video. So for now, sit back and enjoy the ride of me trying to navigate the chaos that is Heathrow Airport as it came out of lockdown and tried to ramp up to full capacity. Today I'm flying to Bucharest via London, and this will be flights 3 and flights 4 on the 10 flights I need to go gold.
Yes, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Well, that's an interesting experience. You go up to the check-in desk and then you carry your own bag over. So that's a new one on me. Scottish automation. Let the passengers be the baggage handlers. How you doing? Okay. Bye bag. Oh, you gotta love that. That's made me smile, that has. I am such a noob at this. I've just somehow started a rinse cycle, I think. I'm not sure what I've done. Nice little flight that, I've got to say. Staff were lovely. A little bit of tea and cake on the way. Can't complain. Well, I almost got wrestled to the ground and arrested because the security staff thought I was recording them, so that was interesting. It was pointing at me, not at them, as I walked into a secure area. Wow, fair enough. Lesson learned. Jesus, I'm shaking the way they just went at me. Oh, great gap year coming at you from the local cell. Anyway, so I've got to go from Terminal 5 to Terminal 3, which surprised me because I thought Terminal 5 was BA's terminal. I didn't really realise they flew out of other terminals as it went along. It's all kind of spicy, but 3 vegan options. I thought that was really good. And I've actually gone for one of those. I've gone for some sagaloo and plant-based curry, which looks like it's going to be tofu, and I've also got myself a little can of beer to go with my curry. Now, Group 1 is now supposed to be boarding. I don't think this is going to work. It's a scrum. So we are in Bucharest, and that is flight 4 of the 10 flights that I need to take to get BA Gold all done. It's like 1 a.m, so pretty tired. Yeah, and today I'm at Bucharest Airport. I will be taking flights 5 and 6 of the 10 flights that I need to get BA Gold status. Well, we took off nearly 2 hours late, so it's actually going to be touch and go at the other end, trying to get between Terminal 3 and Terminal 5 and then back off again. All of these pains can be eased with a glass of champagne. Cabin crew are excellent again. I don't know what people do. I don't know how people have complaints about BA. I think the cabin crew are first class. So flight arrived late. The gate it pulled into was at Terminal 5, of course. So the bus then took us to Terminal 3. So then I had to hightail it to the connecting bus, which would take me back to Terminal 5, but it's after 8:30, so there's no connecting bus that just goes. You have to phone up and order one. So I phoned up and ordered one. 15 minutes later, hadn't arrived. Phoned up 30 seconds after I'd phoned up. Guess what? Of course, it arrived and made me look like an impatient idiot. We all jumped on the bus. That took us to Terminal 5. Then we stood in what was a really long queue to get through security. It's now 20 to 10. So if this flight leaves on time, it actually won't be too bad at all. I'll just didn't get a chance to enjoy any of the lounges in Heathrow Terminal 5, which is a real shame. So the app said A4, the board said A19. Went to A19, nothing really seemed to be happening there. There was no gate staff, there was no gate agents, nothing going on. So I ran upstairs to the lounge, grabbed some water because I'm absolutely parched. My fault, too much whiskey on the flight from Bucharest. And came back downstairs, went to the gate and it's empty. I'm like, ooh, I wasn't that long at the lounge. I had 2 glasses of water and ran back downstairs again. And it's a good job I did run downstairs because they've changed the gate. And the gate is now A4, like the app said. The Glasgow flight that's leaving from this gate was told that they were boarding about an hour ago, so everyone came downstairs. They were all told to go back upstairs, but nobody wants to lose their place in the boarding queue, as it were. And now they've called the Edinburgh flight, so the Edinburgh people are trying to get through the Glasgow people, and then more Edinburgh people are arriving behind asking to get through. So it's all a bit confused, a bit hot and a bit sweaty. Another day, another bus gate. Well, this is quite an adventure. We're sort of heading back. We've just sort of left Terminal 5 on the bus, and I'm not sure where we're going. But everyone else seems to be wanting to go to Edinburgh, so I think I'm on the right bus. That's definitely a positive. If you're feeling a bit confused, I'm not surprised. I was a bit dazed and confused too. The flight from Bucharest was due into Terminal 3 and the flight out from Edinburgh was due to leave Terminal 5. When we landed though, I think we parked at Terminal 5 and then we got bussed all the way over to Terminal 3. Then I needed to get the inter-terminal transfer, so I got a bus over to Terminal 5 so that I could catch my Edinburgh flight. But then when we got to the gate for the Edinburgh flight, we were bussed again out to a plane that was, I really do not know where. I guess we ended up back at Terminal 5, but I really wouldn't have been surprised if I'd actually got off the bus at Beaconsfield Services. Well, that was a tough journey. It's not quite over yet, I'm not at the hotel, but that is flight number 6 of the 10 required for my BA Gold status done. A very tired and weary me checked into the Holiday Inn Express at Edinburgh Airport, and I was confronted with the dreaded 2 single beds, which I absolutely hate. Now, this wasn't the best Holiday Inn Express I've ever been to. In fact, it may even have been the worst. But the next day, I was just due to be flying back out to Athens, so I just picked a bed and got my head down. Although the hotel room was in need of a refurb, I did sleep well and the hotel staff were really nice, and they also allowed me to camp out in their bar with just 1 cup of tea until it was time for me to go back to the airport for my final trip. Flight 3, Edinburgh to Athens. I made an error when I booked this trip, and it's worth taking a moment just to talk about it in case you're ever thinking of booking a holiday through the BA Holidays website, and especially if you're thinking of taking advantage of the double tier points offer. What basically happened was this. I put the dates and the other details into the BA Holiday website, which would give me 5 nights away, and it gave me a cost for the holiday. However, the flight into Athens arrived at around 2 a.m, so the BA booking engine booked me 4 nights hotel accommodation and not 5, and I didn't notice this until much later. Now, after I spotted that the hotel booking was only for 4 nights, I called the call centre and they confirmed that because it was 4 instead of 5 nights, I wouldn't be eligible for the double tier points offer. And this would mean that I would end up 240 bonus points short of being BA Gold. To fix the problem, I had to cancel the hotel part of the booking and then rebook it for 5 nights. And when I did this, the additional cost came out at £306. Now, the call centre operator was very nice, very helpful, managed the rebooking, but they were adamant the fault was mine and that as far as sharing this additional cost was concerned, that was a hard no. The net result was I was out £306, and by now I was well over my budget, but if you can learn from my mistake, then something good has come from this. Well, I am back in a damp and dreary Edinburgh, flying off to Athens. These will be flights 7 and 8 on my gold tier point run, and when I come back from Athens I should have enough tier points to be BA Gold for the next 2 years. Yes! Quite severely delayed and might not make it to Athens tonight, so it does look like we're going to get to London at least, but what happens after that I don't know. I've never been missed a connection, this kind of thing, so it's all new to me. It's all good fun, and Due to land at 9:45. The Athens flight is due to leave at 10:20. That is unbelievably tight. The Athens flight has been delayed. It's 9:47 now, and the Athens flight is due to take off at 10:47. So I think I've got a 50-50 shot on this. Could make it. It doesn't sound very pleasant if you don't. So as soon as the belt light comes up, I'm going to get into the aisle and see if I can hightail it. Just after a bit of a run to try and make the flight, it wouldn't let me through. We've been offloaded, so went to the customer service desk. They said, no, you've got to go to departures. I'm in Heathrow Terminal 5. I'm exhausted. It's been a long old day. I've missed my flight to Athens, which means I would have missed one of the 4 days that I would have had in Athens, and that to me was 25% of the holiday. And they said, well, we'll refund you a night's hotel accommodation, which one night's hotel accommodation is going to be a couple £100 off, 1,500 £. Now, BA Holidays were really good. They offered to extend. So they offered to extend the holiday so I could come back one day later. Go on a different flight tomorrow, come back later, and that would have been nice because then I'd have been on Aegean business as well. But I decided, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go home. So I said, can I just cancel and get my money back? And she said, yeah, no problem. No arguments. Yeah, full refund. Quoted me everything that I'd paid and said I'd get that back. So I failed to make my flight to Athens, and I failed to get BA Gold status in 3 trips. What I was later told was that the border staff had clocked off at 10 o'clock. So although my flight to Athens was delayed and still on the tarmac, I wasn't allowed through the gates into the security hall because passport control was closed. As Robert Burns said, the best laid schemes of mice and men often go awry, but I was very happy just to accept a full refund of that £1,500 Athens trip. As an aside, I allowed over 3 hours to transit Heathrow, and I thought this was plenty, but it was a close run thing on the way back from Bucharest, and as you've seen, it wasn't enough time on the flight to Athens. Now, this was in September 2022. The industry was desperately trying to ramp back up, and things were not back to normal. But even with these teething troubles, I did talk to my fellow passengers about these issues, and they apparently existed before COVID. Now, the advice I received was to allow at least 3 to 4 hours to connect through Heathrow if you're flying out of Scotland. And one passenger told me that she always stays overnight in London. She still purchases the single fare from Edinburgh to Athens, say, but will just break the flights up with an overnight in London. Now, I didn't even know you could do that. Like my favourite round in the quiz show, A Question of Sport, what happened next? Because this actually isn't the end of the story. I was in London, but my car was in Edinburgh. My home is between those two. My bag was also airside and not returned to me, so I had my clothes, my passport and my wallet and not much else. So where did I sleep that night and how did I get back to Edinburgh? Did I get my bag back and was I eligible for any compensation? I will reveal all of these in an upcoming video. So if you want to see me desperately scrambling around to try and get back to Edinburgh, then do please subscribe to the channel, click on the bell and get a notification for when the What Happened Next video is released. And if you'd be kind enough to consider giving me a like on this video, I'd really appreciate it. And as it's a new channel, it would actually be a really big help. So thank you for watching and joining me on my grey gap year.